Anthony's from Square Enix, and he's going to talk about transitioning a company to a mobile game company. So with that, I'll hand it over to you, and we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Thank you, David. And I'm going to try and speak slowly because he says I speak too fast for Ukrainian and Russian speakers. Thank you for coming to listen today. I'm Antony Douglas. I'm the General Manager for Square Enix Mobile in Europe. I'm going to do a quick vox pop. Who knows who Square Enix are? Hands up. Okay, I can skip the first 3 slides then, no. So just moving on. This is us. Oh, this isn't working. Hang on. Technical issue. Are there any IT companies in the crowd? This moving that, but not that. Okay, so those of you that know Square Enix will be familiar with these titles. For those of you that don't know, we're a video game publisher, as David said, and we've been around since I was about that big. So probably more older than some of you in the audience, but not quite as old as me. These are probably the biggest of the titles that we publish that you'll be familiar with. Obviously Final Fantasy, a franchise well into its 15th, 16th year. Dragon Quest, again, I'm sure many of you who are Nintendo players will know this, and Kingdom Hearts, our joint venture with Disney. That's on the Japanese side. We're Japanese owned, but I'll go on to talk about how the structure of the company works shortly. On the left-hand side, we have the European IPs. No surprises, Tomb Raider, looking resplendent in her comeback game for next year. Hitman, everybody loves bald people, I do. And Deus Ex, which was rebooted last year, one of the all-time great PC games, which we rebooted and had an enormous success with. So this is our world. We're very traditional in some ways, and we're going to talk a little bit about how we're moving in different areas. Just to clarify the speaker topic, it makes it sound like we're moving out of this and just doing mobile. Well, we're very much in console gaming, PC gaming, browser gaming, and mobile as well. But it's about that transition and the different business models that we're looking to work with on smartphone and tablet. So this is our corporate philosophy. See, this is not moving here now, so I'm going to have to guess. To spread happiness across the globe by providing unforgettable experiences. That's what we do. It sounds trite, and trying to make that easy and make that into a game is incredibly hard, as those of you in the audience will know. I think the key thing for our philosophy is that we don't try and make games for everyone. We don't say, this is a game, Final Fantasy is for everyone in this room. Potentially it could be, but we look at the audience first. We look at segmentation. We look at the gamers on PC, the gamers who are playing console games, the gamers who are playing mobile. And of course, they cross over. But to say we make a game for everyone, it's not true. We focus very much on a particular audience and making sure we give them an incredible experience. It's definitely true that we don't make that many games a year. We are not EA. We're not pushing out maybe 7 to 8 AAA titles or more in a calendar year. But what we do is when we make a bet, we make that bet win. So we don't try and go too big and make too many failures. We try to make every single game that we publish a success, and that's whether it's on console or whether it's on mobile. So this is how we're regionally operated. We're about 3,500 employees, vast majority in Tokyo. We have 3 operating businesses based in Japan, London, and Los Angeles. We publish IPs respectively from each of those territories, and we're all responsible for, as I mentioned in the earlier slide, our own IPs. The European studios, the European team also are supported by studios in San Francisco. That's Crystal Dynamics, who make Lara Croft. Eidos Montreal, which make Deus Ex. And in Copenhagen, we have IO, who are doing Hitman. So they all report into the European office, and those IPs are represented by Europe. We all publish globally, whether it's on console or whether it's on mobile, and we work as one team across the globe. So our strategic pillars, which, again, this is a bit of Jinglish here, because this is written by people in Japan, so hopefully it makes sense. In English, I should say. So yeah, we are, as I said earlier, we're focused very much on creating segmentation around the genres, around particular players. Again, we don't necessarily say this is a game for everyone. It would be foolish to say Final Fantasy is for every single gamer on this planet, or Tomb Raider. We look at our audience and carefully work, to their designs and what they enjoy playing. And that's backed up by the fact we don't think software will sell everywhere. We look at local markets, and we have very strong distribution, as you would imagine, in Asia, Europe, and North America. Becoming network-centric, I think everybody, in a mobile world understands that because it's always connected. But you have to remember, we are still a traditional publisher at heart, and we do still sell boxes, and we do it very well. And we stack warehouses, and we sell at wholesale prices. But the world now is revolving around the internet. So obviously, all our brands and IPs that we look at on different platforms have to be in line with network centricity. And that means that we have to get a different dynamic in terms of our staff. We have to look at different analytics experts, engineering experts, and grow expertise in a different way, and we're doing that in all of the areas that I've mentioned. And our aim is to have around 10 IPs across the group structure that we can leverage, because that is our conversation to our customer. We focus through the narrative of story or the game design, and our ambition is to have 10 killer IPs. And we're about 5 or 6 right now, and they're not cadenced, they come out every year. A game still takes 3 to 4 or 5 years on video game development. We'd like to use platforms like mobile, like browser, to embellish those stories more readily, so people who are fans of Deus Ex, Hitman, don't have to wait 3 to 4 years to play the next iteration. They can be looking at a version potentially on mobile or browser. So how we see content for mobile specifically, we make AAA games, so it would be foolish of us not to take those brands onto mobile. And Lara Croft is a great example of a AAA game we brought to mobile a couple of years ago. That's not to say that we don't do casual games. Casual's an interesting word, actually. I would call it accessible games in some ways, because we don't think anyone who loves our games is necessarily casual about them. I think they have to be. We want people to be involved in our games, love our brands, love the game design, keep coming back to them. I don't think that's fair to call that casual. I think it means accessible games. So this is a character mock-up that we're working on for a title that we can't disclose right now. But we want people to, think they've had a great experience every time they've played. It must be meaningful to them. Pick up and play is great. You can play for 10 seconds, but if you can have 10 seconds of fun, then we've achieved our aim. So we're working across a range of content from the very hardcore, which is where we are traditionally, casuals at this end. We're still more on this side, but we're looking at stuff in the casual sector, and we've been talking to people over the last couple of days about the content that we could potentially license in as well. So we will look at all sorts of games. As long as they're good, as long as we think we have an audience, then we will put the marketing machine behind it. So this is me selling to you now, and then I'm hoping that people are going to sell to me. This is what we as a division in Europe bring for companies that may want to work with us from development, art, IT services, marketing, PR. We're going to publish around 8 to 10 titles a year out of the European studio. That's not to say we won't add to that. We'll have licensed products again. We've been looking at stuff over the last couple of days. It's really interesting. We have obviously huge teams that are built around building brands and IP. Right now, everything is structured, particularly from the iOS standpoint, that you launch and then you talk about it. That's great. But we think if you're going to really create value in this market and create great brands that resonate and last for a long time, you're probably going to have to structure it in, dare I say it, a more traditional way. You're still going to have marketing. You're going to have to talk to journalists, trade press. If you're not doing these kind of things, then you're not going to get that swell of opinion as you start. But of course, we really want people to read about our games, download and play them. Obviously, we're global. I think that's fairly obvious. I think the next bit is interesting. Discoverability is obviously a huge problem for everybody in this room, and Square Enix is no exception to that. We work with people like Starbucks, FMCG brands, McDonald's, Coca-Cola on all sorts of partnership programs, which more and more will come out about in the next few months. And they're all about how we work with their loyalty programs, projects they've got running. We've got a game that's going on something like 120 million pieces of McDonald's packaging in the new year. It's a pretty different way of doing things. But we can have those conversations. They want to come and talk to us because we're Square Enix. That is the benefit of being us. And we see different ways of marketing mobile to their customer base as well. We're obviously in with operators like Telefonica, Vodafone, and many others around the globe. And we also work with the chipset manufacturers as well. Obviously, tech is growing incredibly fast, and again, a tablet game now. We've got something in production that, when we review it on a 60-inch screen, and you can sit there and forget that actually what you're watching on that screen when you're criticizing or you're praising how the work's going is actually being run off a smartphone. We're just using mirroring. So there's a huge appetite for these guys who are building smart TVs and other devices around the tablet market to take content that looks wow. They want wow content. It's got to have a great game. It's got to be a great game. It can't just look good. That's a fatal mistake the industry tend to make. But we want to make great games that you can play through a TV from your phone, from your tablet as well. So we're talking to these guys. They're very interested in how they can partner up with us. And of course, we have channel relationships. I've been in mobile a long time. I used to work for Telefonica, so I know how difficult it is sometimes to even speak to some of these guys. But we do have relationships with all the parties mentioned there. And again, we're in constant dialogue. They want to know what content we've got coming, and we want to know what tech they've got and what plans they've got. So that's really important for what we're offering as Square Enix. What we've learnt is it's bloody hard. I've been in this since the glory of the Java days, and some things don't change. It's still an incredible problem to get a game to run on about more than 10 devices. There's always a problem. We went to Google. Here's an example. Google said to us, or we said to Google, how many devices do you expect us to support with each launch? And they said, all of them. So that's 1,000 devices straight away. And making a game that's high-res 3D render on 1,000 devices is probably going to be difficult. So those problems prevail, and we need to work with companies that understand the difficulties around mobile and fragmentation and the SKU variation. Recruitment is really tough. Not in the Ukraine. There's loads of good people in the Ukraine. They're just not in London. It's a small group of people who are very specialised in mobile, we still find. So we still look for producers. We still look for artists in our top team to work with third parties. But it's still a struggle. You can see 40, 50 CVs every time we try and hire. Internal growing pains, yeah. This is the downside of being a great big publisher, is that everybody thinks a project takes 4 years. So I've been doing contracts sometimes where they've taken as long as development, which we're trying to rectify. It's those kind of things that are the growing pains for us. And in that transition to mobile, we're really trying to improve, because it just takes too long. Stuff takes too long. People work at a different rhythm. And mobile is very now. Everything's live. Everything keeps changing. Game design, well, it goes without saying, we've had to bring in specialists into my team to manage game design because it's completely different. Free-to-play, if you walk around and say free-to-play is the future, in a company like Square, you'll get 75% of people probably going to hang you, and the rest is the mobile team. So it's new, but we do run free-to-play across the world. In Japan, they're very successful with Final Fantasy Brigade on the DNA platform. So it is there, but it takes a mindset change, and that takes time. Polish. This is where it'll be difficult, I think, for smaller publishers to go forward in the future on their own. There might be a breakout hit, but the demands that Apple are putting on everybody, the expectation in the market for quality, and when I say quality, I do mean the Polish side of that, it's really tough, and that's free-to-play side-scrolling game or a 3D game. It's getting harder and harder to stand out from the competition. So again, we need to work with people who've got good tech, who've got good vision for this as well. Quality developers who know their trade. It's amazing how many we see that will want to work with us. And we're not, EA, we're not going to not put you on the credits. We'll share the glory with the publishers, the developers as well. But it's really tough still. It's tough to find a good balance with the titles that we want to run. And this is probably the most pertinent for my ops director. The technology you're working on, whether it's Unity, Marmalade, Native, how you do your porting, it's really important that that's robust and that works, because we'll be really clear with you about what we want. If you feel you can't meet that standard, or you're going to have problems, or your code's not up to scratch, there's not much point in us doing business. So that's incredibly important for us. So what are we looking for? It's really important, that first one, because we are a big publisher, but we're not dumb. We know that we're working with smaller companies in most cases. We appreciate we've all worked for smaller companies, so we understand the pressures that can be there. But if you come to us and say you can do a project and then we realise 2 months into it, it's a struggle for you, that's going to be a problem. And if you've got problems in a project, we want you to talk to us. We want you to say, look, we're really struggling here, or we need some help here, we need a resource. That kind of dialogue is absolutely critical. Proven tech, we really want to see the tech that you're working on. We'd love to see examples. And we need to really understand what it is you're building on, because, again, that's where the problems come further down the line. Resource is critical. When we look at a team or we go and do due diligence, we want to know who the artist is, who the producer is, who the coders are. And we want to know how much time they're spending on the project, whether they're working on other projects, because too often we find that the artist happens to be part-time tea lady, does a bit of cleaning as well, and it's not quite what we were sold. And again, as long as you're straight with us, we'll be straight back to you. And ideas, I think everyone thinks if we were coming to you with Hitman and said, make this Hitman game, that we would tell you absolutely everything about that game that we want, absolutely down to every level of the GDD. It's not going to happen. We're going to give you a vision, an idea of what we want, where we think the monetization is, but we really want to work with developers that have ideas and thoughts about the game itself as well. We're not just there to control every single aspect. Yeah, of course, there's milestones, and we have to work to a process, but we want ideas from our developers. And lastly, dialogue. Just talk to us. We're not big, bad, and evil. It's just much worse when people don't tell us things, and we have to find it out in a roundabout sort of way. That's where projects tend to go wrong, and it's the hardest part because we work across developers across the world. We've got games being developed in New York, in France, in Denmark, potentially in Ukraine, and that constant dialogue is really important for us. So I think that's sort of the high-level view of Square Enix Europe Mobile right now. Does anyone have any questions except you?
You really don't like that guy.
You haven't been drinking with him.
I hope to. Later.
Hello, thanks for
Hello.
the presentation. I have a little question. You know that some of your iOS products has a very high price. Can you tell us the reason, I mean, for such figures as $15.99, $17.99, $19.99, and so on?
So you are the lucky winner of this Hitman USB stick, because I was going to give it to the person that asked that question, and you went straight in. So congratulations.
Now,
And that's
all of your
that's
output
£19
costs
you owe me.
$19.99.
No, it's a good question. As we said, we're establishing 3 different offices. So the games that you're talking about are published by Japan, so I can blame them. No, I think that the Japanese view of this is that we have built quality games over these, whether they're for handheld, whether they're for mobile, and they are trying things out. The business model is not set in this world. Everything is free to play right now. Tomorrow it could be different. It will change the day after that. I think Japan wanted to try things. Bear in mind that game sells incredibly well at that price as well. I think there's something at least honest about it, because it tells you how much the game's going to be. It's going to be an upfront cost. I know there is an app purchase in that as well. But we don't really talk about average revenue per paying user and daily prices and small cents. But actually, we never really quote the average price for a game. We don't say someone spent $100 on this game. You don't see that so much. And actually, so $20 for something you can play for 30, 40 hours is still cheaper than you'd buy it on a handheld. But Japan are trying that. They're seeing how it works. It works very well in Japan. It has been commented on quite a lot in Europe and the West. But they're responding to it. They're seeing the feedback, and there'll probably be changes in the way that it's structured. Okay, enjoy the stick.
Any other questions? Oh,
Hi, Edgar. I'm from Disksoft. My name is Konstantin. A question is, you are working with great projects, 3D projects from gaming, yes? Such as Tomb Raider or Hitman. Do you work with little companies with little arcade games, like Bad Piggies maybe?
Yeah, no, we do. Again, I'm not going to paint a picture and say we are a puzzle game company, because no one in this room would believe me anyway. We do, with the first couple of games we've launched since I set this team up in sort of February, are both 2 casual puzzle games. One is from one guy who had an idea for a falling block game, came to us via contact, and we said we like that game and we've published it. So check it. It's called Kuzak, K-O-O-Z-A-C. And that's just one guy. That was just one guy who had a good idea. He had made it, I will say, he had made it a browser game, successful online browser game prior to that, but he was still a one-man band. So absolutely, we do that. It's about good games. We thought that game would be good because we thought the mathematical side of it, people would find it addictive, and that's proven the case. So yeah, absolutely, and that's why we're here. We did not expecting for Activision to come and say, could you do Call of Duty for us on mobile? Because we'd say no, forget it. But no, absolutely, we will. Okay.
Are there specific types of games you are in the market for today?
Sexy poker? No. We haven't.
Not you personally.
No,
I
yeah,
mean,
sorry. We don't get sexy. When I was in the Java days, it was always sexy poker. We don't see too much of that. But, I think we're expecting casual games here because we've come to a conference called Casual Connect, so we're expecting more casual than we are something like Hitman. But we've seen an array of stuff so far. So, again, it sounds glib, but it is good games. Well made, well executed, on lots of devices, marketable, cheap.
Any other questions? Where can the people in this room find you after this presentation if they want to talk to you more?
Being incredibly efficient with money, we're not in the big room downstairs. We're in the bronze room here.
Right around the corner.
We're just outside the door, yeah. To the right.
All right, well, thank you very much.
All right, thanks, guys.